Hello SGD here. This will be part 2 in the science of symbols. You can find part 1 link in the description, and where we left off, so we were looking at this Athanasius Kircher and the multiple illustrations, but with a focus on this one, how it connects to Pythagorean symbolism as amongst others. So what we saw was this 1, 2, 3, 4 and the tetrad, or the tetractys as it's called, and how this applies to geometry as well as really nice arithmetic, but also this symbol was key. The Pythagoreans swore an oath on this tetractys, and they also had used the pentagram as an identifier. But so if we focus there, we can just highlight it. It's essentially triangular numbers, which is a very important connected feature. So much to be extracted from this, and it all connects nicely. But so we see that symbol. Now, one of the ways so for instance, recently this was adopted as the flag of the Earth by NASA, and it's a little bit stylized there, but what we have there is the seed of life. It's very simple design, and we also see it amongst many other places, in the Osiron in Egypt as well, carved there on the stone. Now, this geometry is very beautiful, lovely geometry, is what also leads us to this the tetrad, or the tetractys, or the tetragrammaton as it's also called. But for instance, from there we get a Star of David, or we could do a hexagon, but if you keep adding the lines together, we start to get this. And if we draw a triangle, now it's just at a bit of an angle, but what we have is this very special, but also in geometry and arithmetic. And for instance, the hexagon, whether it's the poles of Saturn, or even light bursts. For instance, when you get the camera, you typically get the 6 point. If you take a photo of the sun, or a light point, you'll get this hexagonal, but beehives. It's just the most beautiful, most efficient shape in nature, and this is one of the reasons for it, but also connects to arithmetic, especially triangular numbers and the tetragrammaton, or the tetractys. So for the name of God, as it is in Kabbalist Jewish mysticism, and also some other researchers have pointed out lovely connections in modern, but also ancient architecture in these symbols here as well. So that's one of these added connections. Now, we did touch on that, so just okay, for instance, but also there we see, so the bottom 4, there we see the tetragrammaton, or the tetractys in Pythagorean school. You see how it crosses multiple schools, whether it's from the pre-Christian through to the modern time, and for instance here in Freemason tracing boards. But another feature, so we saw those, and then we come to this angel here, or what would you call him? Not an angel, I forget the name, like a Cupid type of thing. Forget anyway. Well, even numero, so numbers. Okay, and what do we have? We have a magic square. So whatever direction you add these numbers up, you'll always get 15, which in itself will connect to the tetractys in some very lovely ways. And the use of magic squares is amongst especially esoteric artists, architecture. You'll find magic squares so often, especially with some very specific numbers, which will connect back to the other themes that you'll find throughout here. So again, the tetragrammaton and the tetractys, or even and the magic square. Well, what do we have? So we also have this theme of 3, 5, and 7 steps, that's what we're reading across there in this particular magic square. And if we look at, like, this is just, so if you zoom in on this particular Masonic board, okay, we have the stairway 3, 5, and 7. And there are more than a few others, but like for instance, the 5 orders of Roman architecture, which also connect to these 5 senses as well: Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, Composite. And these are all very important. Also systems of measure, systems of music, and architectural schools of architecture. So there was 3 columns: Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, in the Greek schools, and then the Romans added two more, so like Etruscan and Tuscan, but they also have a composite column, which is a Corinthian plus an Ionic. Now we also have a Doric, so Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, Doric column, Corinthian column, and an Ionic column. So these are the three schools. But also the seven, well, there's many other references to seven, but the seven liberal arts being one example of these steps that you need to go through to move up the ladder, so to speak. Now, another nice point about 15. So the Tetractys was 1, 2, 3, 4, which gives us 10. So the fourth triangular number is 10. So the second triangular number is 3, 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. That's the third, and that's the fourth. And that's now, if we add the next level, we put 5 dots across, and the next triangular number is 15. Now from there we get some nice links, and so amongst others. But for instance, if you add the first plus the second triangular number, the second, you get 2 squared. Okay, so if you add the second, plus the third, second plus the third, you get 3 squared. Now if you add the third plus the fourth, you get 4 squared. If you add the fourth plus the fifth, you get 5 squared. So you add two neighboring triangular numbers together, you'll get the square of the place of the larger you'll get the square. Now for instance, 3, 4, 5, mentioned earlier, 3, 4, 5 triangles. Also the 2, 3, 4 can also be found in the it's built into the pyramids as well in so many other places. But now, staying on that board, now what do we have? This figure down here, and there we see the zoom. Now he's got his book open, and he's got a 6-pointed star, or the Star of David, and he's got a 5-pointed star. Now Albrecht Dürer, very important person in this field in the late 15th, early 16th century, in this very chunky period in regards to Hermeticism, and the rise of Rosicrucians and these type of, one of his constructions, he does this, that's a 6, so you have a pentagon. Now that's the Vesica there, and so that's essentially it's a hexagon there, and so there we see the hexagon emerging from the Vesica down here, and there we see the 5-pointed star, 6 over 5. Now this construction that he has here is not perfect. It's very, very close, and in itself, the imperfection actually includes some lovely knowledge, especially connecting to Sun and Earth and Moon, for instance, through 273, or 109.2 to be exact. That's 22.73 times 4 is, anyway, that's a Sun, Earth and Moon, baby. It's always there. And so the 6 over 5, so that's the construction if you were to do the Albrecht Dürer method. Now I'll put the link in the description, because I'll show you how to do a perfect pentagram with compass and straight edge. That link will be in the description. And the basis of that design is the Vesica, which gives us the hexagon as well. So it all nicely joins in. Now this will bring us back to, for instance, John Dee, famous for Enochian magic. Now Enoch, and then through Solomon, that's where this Enochian magic comes from. And then it was later resurrected and brought up. So all the stuff with Crowley, he was looking at John Dee and Edward Kelly and what's called Enochian magic. Now, how did they, for instance, this is an important symbol tool used by John Dee, and we see the pentagram in the middle. So that's why it's important to be able to draw these things if you're into that stuff. But we also see the 7-pointed star around the outside. So how do you draw these? It's to do, if you want to go down this road, I personally, that's not my thing, but you need to understand the geometry, and that's why the separation of the exoteric and esoteric, I think, is a big mistake, because these famous figures were geometricians. They were metrologists, as well as being into astrology, Enochian magic, and this type of thing. So to do this, you need to understand the geometry of it. Now, this is Albrecht Dürer's his method of doing it. Now he's only got one triangle there, but that's the 6-pointed star there. So if you just to join the dots, you get the Vesica again. But from that emerges this technique. Link will be in the description, how to draw a very close approximate of the 7-pointed star using compass and straight edge. And where else is, so okay, we see the triangle there, where we see the triangle in the middle, and around it, what do we have? Oh, that's the nonagon there, sorry. And okay, I've got a nonagon video in there. I'll put that link in the description if I remember. But in regards to the heptagon, or the 7-pointed star, heptagram, I'll link in the description. Geek 37 shows how to do an exact construction of a regular heptagon 7-pointed star. This is a close approximate, but he'll show you using, you can also draw it perfectly, but this is using a CAD system, and it's very, very, very clever. A great channel. He does a lot of geometry and math stuff, and highly recommend subscribing to his channel. So this 6/5, this important geometry, and it connects. Nonagon, the 9-pointed star, very important as well. He also has got some excellent videos. That's Geek 37. He also shows how to do the nonagon. And I'll also put a link. I've got a compass and straight edge version from the Flower of Life to do, again, a close approximate, but it's not perfect. Geek 37 can show you how to do it perfectly. Now, in regards to that 6/5, so we see these, so Templars or Temperance, which is like the Odd Fellows and these other organisations full of Masonic symbols. It's not just the Masons. But what do we have? The 6 and the 5-pointed star. 6 and 5, and we also have the use of 6 and 5-pointed stars here. Important geometry in regards to many aspects and understanding these boards. So as a review, okay, what we have is the, well, for instance, the pentagram is connected to the golden ratio. It's the best, it's a beautiful way in geometry terms doing the golden ratio. We saw the 3, 4, 5 triangle, Pythagorean triangle, Euclid's 47th. This is also, I think, the third step of Masons. You must contemplate Euclid's theorem, I think. That's in, at least in, anyway, but that's an important feature because of the compass and square, and we're using this geometry and then Pythagorean theorem, we can start to work out things such as the square root of 2, the square root of 3, and square root of 5. Square root of 4 is easy, that's 2, but square root of 5. So once you understand Pythagorean theorem and this geometry, you can then start to do some really nice math, which is so important in construction and well, masonry, engineering, maths, science. It's a must know, but it's also embedded in these older forms. Key stuff to understand. Okay, so now we saw the magic square on this angel, numero. Now I can't read that now. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but what's this angel doing? Well, there's a few connections there, and I'll carry on in the next episode, but just as an intro, what's he doing? Well, he's holding a pendulum, or a plumb bob more specifically, and there's a plumb line there, and there we see for Temple of Solomon, this very important figure again in Freemasons, the legend of Hiram Abiff, the Temple of Solomon, and the construction and the secrets of understanding how to build and how to understand the geometry of these things. And also, this is a system of measure. You can also apply this to a pendulum and create a very accurate timepiece as well. And for instance, on this, what do we have? We have the plumb line and the square. So that's how, just like a level. How do you keep things level? Well, this is one tool, and there we see again this other tool in there as well. And in the series I did on recent on cornerstones, the links will be in the description. But the importance of it there. So that will be, I'll do more of this on the next episode. But with that, I hope you enjoyed. There's a lot of information to be read from this, and it's done in a very elegant way, very profound way, and it has many applications and very practical, let's call it, but, well, construction, engineering, masonry, maths, science. It's all built around these tools. Before the computer age, we had to do things differently, and we did it with very simple tools, and some very cool logic. And with that, hope you enjoyed this episode.